come to order. We are convened as of 5:30 p.m. I would respectfully ask everyone attending this meeting to mute yourselves unless you are recognized to speak. Please note that the committee meetings of the RTD Board of Directors will be held remotely via Zoom and will be recorded. The meeting recordings, along with the unofficial minutes of the meetings, will be posted as soon as practicable on the board's website. During today's meeting, we are providing communication access real-time translation, also known as CART. Anyone who would like to access this service should send an email to the RTD board office at rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com, and a link will be provided. Additionally, the CART transcript can be automatically translated for anyone who would like access to a live transcript of this meeting in Spanish. A live stream of this meeting is also available via RTD's YouTube page. I would now like to call the roll for the committee members. Director Bouquet.
Present.
Director Busick.
Here.
Director Chandler. Vice Chair Chandler.
Here.
Director Nicholson. Secretary Nicholson.
Present.
Director Pagliari.
Present.
Director Whitmore.
Present.
And I am Chair Harwick, and I am also here. So for the record, I see that we have all 7 directors present. And Jack, who did you say we were also joined by?
Chairman O'Keefe is here.
And Director Guzman, thank you for joining. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to open up for public comment. I would like to open public comment to anyone who would like to address the committee regarding any topic listed in the published meeting agenda for the current and immediately preceding agendas. If you wish to speak and have not already done so, please either raise your virtual hand or press *9 on your phone. During this time, the committee will not offer any direct comments or responses. However, if you would like to be contacted regarding your public comment, please email the RTD board office at rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com. Executive Manager Kroll, do we have any hands raised?
Yes, Committee Chair Harwick, I see 2 hands raised at this time. The first is from Francisco Soto.
Okay. All right. Francisco Soto,
Yes.
just please bear in mind that the participating in this process, you are being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, then your comments will be submitted in writing. Comments can be submitted to the board office, the following address: rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com. Francisco Soto, if you would, please state your name and then you may proceed.
Yes, my name is Francisco Soto. I wanted to say on March 5th, 2026 at 9:08 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I was waiting for the A line, and I saw a man being shoved against the wall by 2 RTD security officers and 1 RTD police officer. The guy was screaming he was being pepper sprayed, and that he didn't do anything. So they put him on the ground, and he was screaming, his eyes hurt, and they saw me recording. I was video recording him, and they eventually let him go. The guy said he didn't do anything. He was 100 yards away from whatever happened. I guess there was a big police response in the area, but they eventually let him go. So I believe that guy, he didn't do anything. He was he was innocent, because they let, for some, why would they let him go? And he was an unhoused person. He's homeless. So I don't know, something sketchy. There's a lot of very sketchy things going on with unethical things going on with RTD police. I had spoken to the RTD police chief of police, Steve, about a body cam footage that I had obtained about Sergeant Chris Diker covered his body cam, and he told me that the sergeant, he was allowed to wear his body cam on his belt because he wasn't wearing I guess one of those bulletproof vest things or whatever. But he still was on duty. He still had a police jacket on, and so the police chief said, "Oh, it was okay for him to wear his body cam on his belt. And then, well, he had a jacket and he covered the jacket with it. But I looked up on the police manual, the police operations manual for RTD, and it states that the body cam must always be in the center chest area, in the chest area at all times. And I own a body cam, so I have a magnetic clip which I can use on my jacket. So there's no excuse for that guy to wear his body cam on his belt. And so that's you know, that's I caught that police chief lying. Another thing is these off-duty police officers that you're hiring. An incident on December 8th, 2026. I mean 2025. There was 3 off-duty police officers, and they get paid $90 an hour. I found out by RTD, and they were driving around in a cruiser without a cage, and so that's why one of your guys is RTD police transported that lady to the county jail, and you guys pay them $90 an hour, and they were at that station for an hour. So that's over $150. So basically, you're doing their job and you're paying them to do. You know what I mean? So it's like you guys are just wasting money. Yeah, and you guys got the highest paid police chief, $250,000 a year, and you guys still can't put a cage in a vehicle and give it to the Denver police. And Steve, the chief of police, told me that, oh, it's because all the RTD police took all the vehicles with cages. So why did RTD need to drive around with the vehicle with the cage when you're supposed to give it to the Denver police? So it's just a lot of waste of money, you know, that you guys are doing. So you guys
Thank
need
you,
to get on it.
Francisco. That's your time.
Yeah, I got it.
Executive Manager Kroll.
Yes, Committee Chair Harwick. Next, we have Steve Lauderman.
All right, Steve Lauderman, please state your name and then you may proceed. You'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Yeah, my name is Steve Lauderman. Thanks for the opportunity to address the board. I'm concerned about the proposal to discontinue service on the Platte Valley Flex Ride. I have a few issues. First of all is the Flex Ride has recently seen an increase in ridership. The data available on your website shows ridership has increased pretty consistently in the 5 months preceding September of last year. That's the most recent ridership data available. Increasing from March of last year at 70 riders up to 190 riders per month in September. And anecdotally, from talking to drivers, the ridership has been between 10 and 15 riders per day pretty consistently. My feeling is you've got a route that's showing clear increase in ridership, and I would hope that you would find a way to keep service on that route. I have requested more recent ridership data through a Cora request. I have not received that yet, but I hope to soon and would love to share it with the board. And also, I want to make note, thank you, Director Nicholson, for sharing your thoughts and concerns via email. I appreciate that. And I hope you'll consider my input, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the board. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Muted.
Executive Manager Kroll, do we have any more speakers?
There are no further speakers in the queue.
Okay. All right. Were there any emailed comments received for today's meeting?
There was an emailed comment from Mr. Lauderman related to the subject he just spoke about.
Okay. All right. With no other participants in the queue, we will close the public comment period at this time. We have no external entities to report this month. So we have 4 recommended actions on the agenda this evening. The first action is for the approval of the 2026 Operations Safety and Security Committee work plan for the Operations Safety and Security Committee to approve the committee's 2026 work plan. Do we have a motion?
So move.
I hear Director
Second.
Bouquet.
Second.
I think I heard Nicholson as the second first. Okay. All right. As we have discussed this item in our retreat and in previous meetings, I'm not going to present this item again, but would like to see if there are any discussion on this item before we move to a vote. So I would, at this time, I would like to ask any directors who have questions or who wish to speak to raise their virtual hands. And I will call on you in turn. For directors on or staff calling into the meeting, if you wish to speak, please hit *9. Do we have any questions? Okay, all right. Are there any no votes? All right. No votes. Okay, with 7 aye votes and no votes and 0 abstentions, the motion passes. The second action is for the June 2026 Title VI Service Equity Analysis. For the Board of Directors to adopt the Title VI Service Equity Analysis Report for the June 2026 service change to comply with federal laws, regulations, and guidelines related to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Do we have a motion?
So move.
Okay, Bouquet again. We have a second.
Second. Or.
All right, we got Whitmore. All right, I would now like to ask Martin Romero, Transit Equity Manager, Civil Rights Division, Gabe Christie, Acting Director of Civil Rights Division, and Jesse Carter, Senior Manager, Service Planning and Scheduling, to present this item.
Gabe's just gonna load. Sorry, Gabe's gonna load our PowerPoint and then we'll get going.
Sounds good.
Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Standing. All right. Good evening, board members. I'm Gabe Christie, the Acting Director of Civil Rights Division. And tonight's presentation will focus on the June 2026 Title VI Service Equity Analysis. As a federally funded transit agency, RTD must comply with federal civil rights requirements, including Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. RTD's board adopted Title VI program establishes policies and procedures to ensure transit service remains fair and accessible for all communities. Federal Transit Administration guidelines require RTD to conduct a service equity analysis when a major service change occurs. This presentation summarizes the service equity analysis for the June 2026 service change. The analysis fulfills RTD's federal Title VI requirement to evaluate potential disparate impacts and disproportionate burdens before implementation. Now, with that context, I will turn over to Mr. Martin Romero to walk us through the presentation.
Thank you, Gabe. So as introduced, I'm Martin Romero, Transit Equity Manager. Next slide, Gabe, please. And as Gabe pointed out in tonight's presentation, I will be summarizing the service equity analysis for June 2026 service changes. And I'll go over the policies and methodology that guide our work in completing the analysis. I'll go over the results, both route level and system level. And then I'll cover the public outreach efforts and go over the analysis conclusion and recommendation at the end. Next slide, please. Okay, so Title VI policies include our major service change policy, as well as our disparate impact and disproportionate burden policies. For simplicity, I'll refer to disparate impact and disproportionate burden as DI and DB throughout the presentation. Next slide. Okay, so starting with our major service change policy, which is defined as any 25% increase or decrease in service hours, route miles, service span, or frequency for a route or a line. This applies whether the change occurs all at once or accumulates over a 36-month period. Additionally, implementing, eliminating, or discontinuing a route or a line also qualifies as a major service change. And so for June 2026 proposed service changes, there is a total of 53 changes across bus routes and lines and rail lines. Of these, 16 meet the criteria for a major service change. Next slide, please. Okay, so our disparate impact and disproportionate burden policies help us ensure that major service changes do not disproportionately affect equity populations compared to non-equity populations. And so equity populations include low-income folks as well as BIPOC, which stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color. Under these policies, specific thresholds guide our evaluation. So for service increases, equity populations must receive no less than 10% of the benefit received by non-equity populations. And for service reductions, equity populations must experience no more than 10% greater impact than non-equity populations. And if a potential DI is identified, the agency proceeds only when there is substantial legitimate justification and there are no alternatives exist with less impact that would meet the program goals. And if a DB is identified, the agency will consider modification or mitigation measures when practicable. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's review the methodology used for the Title VI analysis. So we apply each Title VI policy at two levels, the route level and the system level. At the route level, we examine demographics within a quarter mile of each route using US Census data. And so this helps us to understand how proposed major service changes may affect the population living closest to that route and are more likely to use our services. For example, in the image to the right, Route 0 is shown as a red line with the pink area representing the quarter mile buffer around that route. At the system level, we look at demographics of entire block groups served by the route stops rather than just the quarter mile buffer. And this provides a more comprehensive understanding of the overall impacts across the transit network. And so the system level evaluates all major service changes together, which gives us a more, again, a comprehensive understanding of than the route level does. So in short, route level analysis looks at localized impacts for individual routes, while system level analyzes and evaluates the overall impact of all major service changes combined. And one thing to note is that the service district average are 38.2 for BIPOC populations and then 20.3 for low-income populations, and that's at the 200% federal poverty level. Next slide. Okay, so now providing you that background, let's get into the route level results. To simplify the 16 major service changes, we have a table here to indicate which changes have a potential DI or a DB at the route level. I've separated the increases and the decreases in service. So first we'll go over the increases. So as shown, Route 0L, 16th Street Free Ride, and Route 53 have a potential DI, with Route 53 also having a potential DB. One column that I want to highlight is the DI threshold column. So this column represents the difference of percentages that this route exceeded the 10% threshold. So for example, if we look at Route 0L, it was only 0.13% away from being within the 10% threshold. And then similarly, 16th Street Free Ride was only 0.04% away from not having a DI finding. And then Route 53 was only 0.07 past the threshold for a DI and 0.10 from a DB. So all minimal differences. Next slide, please. So more route and line increases continued here. We see that the T, B, and G lines all have a potential DI finding, with the T line also having a DB finding. And then similarly, the threshold were exceeded at minimal percentages, with the largest difference here at 0.89% on the T line. Next slide. Okay, so looking at the route level decreases now, as the table shows, routes 520 has a potential DI and DB. Routes 21 west, which will become Route 22, the L line and the H line have potential DBs. Again, if we look at the differences in percent for these routes to be within that 10% threshold, we see minimal differences across these routes that have a DI or DB. The largest difference here is on Route 21's potential DB finding at 2.32%. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's look at Route 0 as an example, just so you guys can get an idea of how we determine or examine DI and DB. So for details on other routes, please refer to your board packet pages 28 to 63. And also just a reminder that Title VI policies establish the threshold in order for us to perform the comparison. So the results for 0L indicate that BIPOC populations receive less of an increase in service, with 0.25% compared to non-BIPOC populations at 0.42%. That's a difference of 0.17%. This does exceed the threshold of 0.38, and therefore there is a potential DI finding. On the other end, low-income populations stand to benefit more, with 0.37% more of the benefit compared to 0.34% for non-low income. This does not exceed the 0.33% threshold, therefore there is no DB found here. And so this is the approach we take with every route level calculation. Next slide, please. Okay, so in addition to route level analysis, we also evaluate access to key activity centers to get a better understanding of where customers have the potential or the ability to travel to. And so this analysis measures changes in access to retail and convenience stores, academic institutions, social services, senior housing, and employment centers. And it helps us determine whether access has increased, has been enhanced or decreased, or is newly available. We put this together by sourcing data from Esri Business Analyst 2022 to 2023 and retail convenience stores as well. So, and then DRCOG regional data 2024 for academic institutions and senior housing, US Census longitudinal employer household dynamics 2022 for employment data. Next slide, please. Okay, so as we look at some of the major service changes in the proposal, we see the change to key activity centers that come along with service increases and decreases. To highlight a few, Route 0L's service increase enhances access to about 4,887 jobs, 45 social service centers, 1 senior housing location, 9 academic institutions, and 24 retail locations. Route 21 East, the extension on Route 21 East also provides access to a high number of activity centers, including roughly 18,000 jobs, 31 social service centers, 11 senior housing locations, 28 academic institutions, and 34 retail locations. And then Route 520 is a service decrease, but continues to provide access to about 3,100 jobs, 4 social service centers, 4 senior housing locations, 8 academic institutions, and 10 retail locations. Next slide, please. Okay, and then when we look at key activity centers with proposed rail line changes, a few highlights here. First with the increase in service. So the B line, a service increase enhances access to about 6,500 jobs, 26 social service centers, 2 senior housing locations, 5 academic institutions, 13 locations, 13 retail locations. 2 lines that I want to highlight here, they show up as service suspensions. So in the suspensions in the proposal, but service suspensions are considered a decrease for the purpose of our analysis. However, other service changes in the network help maintain access to many of the same destinations along the corridor. So the suspension to the L line will reduce access to about 10,900 jobs, 99 social service centers, 26 academic institutions, 28 retail locations. But to help mitigate this change, Route 43 will increase frequency from 15 minutes to 7.5 minutes, maintaining access to key activity centers along much of the L line corridor. Similarly, the suspension to the H line will reduce access to key activity centers, including nearly 20,000 jobs, 104 social service centers, 13 senior housing locations, 34 academic institutions, and 56 retail locations. Picking this reduction up in part will be the increased frequency on the R line, which will maintain access to many of these activity centers within the corridor. So overall, the analysis shows that most proposed changes maintain or improve access to key destinations where service reductions occur. Other routes or lines in the network will continue to provide access to many of these key activity centers. Next slide, please. Okay, so now let's shift into the system level results. And as a reminder, the system level results is a measure of the net impacts of the changes as opposed to the route level. So we analyze the results separate. We analyze the results by separating the increases and the decreases to obtain the system level results. And so let's first take a look at the impacts for increases. BIPOC populations stand to benefit more compared to non-BIPOC populations, 9% versus 6.22%. The difference here is 2.78% in favor of BIPOC, which does not exceed the DI threshold of 5.60%. Therefore, there is no potential DI. Low-income populations stand to benefit more compared to non-low-income populations, 9.34 versus 6.70%. That's a difference of 2.64%, which does not exceed the DB threshold of 6.03%, and so no potential DB found here. Now going on to the decreases, next slide. So for decreases, BIPOC populations stand to receive more of a burden compared to non-BIPOC populations, 4.16% versus 3.77%. That's a difference of 0.37% in favor of non-BIPOC, which does exceed the DI threshold of 4.15%, and therefore there is a potential DI finding here. Low-income populations receive more of a burden compared to non-low-income populations, 5.47% versus 3.36%. That's a difference of 2.11, which does exceed the DB threshold of 3.70%, resulting in a DB finding. Again, minimal differences between comparative groups here. Next slide, please. Okay, so outreach and public engagement are also required under Title VI when transit agencies, when transit agencies provide propose major service changes. And so the FTA requires agencies to provide meaningful opportunities for public participation and also to ensure outreach includes BIPOC and low-income populations. So for this service change process, RTD's communications and engagement team partnered with service development to host 3 virtual meetings. These included 2 virtual public meetings that were held on February 23rd and February 24th, as well as an Ask a Service Planner virtual session on February 23rd. And so these meetings provide the public with an opportunity to learn more about the proposed changes, ask questions, and then also submit comments and provide feedback. Next slide, please. Additional outreach efforts include a comprehensive bilingual strategy coordinated by the marketing department. This involved creating social media content and in-service assets in both Spanish and English. Our community-based organization partners assisted in distributing information to 258 community members through 7 in-person multicultural events targeting underserved populations. Our public relations team issued 4 news releases in English and Spanish to regional media outlets and general recipients, and also published the Read and Write, reaching nearly 1,000 subscribers. Additionally, the Community Connections newsletter was also sent to over 32,000 subscribers. And direct communications via email were sent to 90 community-based organizations through the Communications and Engagement Department and the ADA department combined. The ADA office also informed 19 affiliated partners and centers. Next slide, please. Okay, so to conclude, our analysis indicates that Title VI concerns are minimal and do not raise concerns about inequitable distribution of benefits, and the percent DI to threshold differences are also minimal. The route level findings indicate that most of the proposed increases provide more of a net benefit for BIPOC and low-income customers. All decreases provide more of an impact to low-income customers at the route level, with one of those routes resulting in a DI as well. However, the differences are minimal between the 2 comparative groups, and the adverse effects are being minimized and mitigated. Next slide, please. So at the system level, the analysis shows no DI or DB finding for service increases. The benefits from these increases accrue to BIPOC and low-income populations at higher rates than non-equity populations. For service decreases, the analysis identified a potential DI and a potential DB. However, these impacts are limited to a small number of routes and are mitigated through other service adjustments in the network. And overall, the differences between the comparator groups remain small at the system level. When considering the full set of the proposed changes, the analysis shows a net benefit for BIPOC and low-income customers. Next slide, please. Went through this one. There you go. So this concludes the presentation and fulfills the FTA requirement for board awareness and consideration of the Title VI service equity analysis. Staff recommends approval of the June 2026 Title VI service equity analysis. Next slide. Yeah, happy to take any questions.
Okay. At this time, I would ask those directors who have questions or who would wish to speak to raise their virtual hands, and I will call on you in turn. For directors or staff calling into the meeting, if you wish to speak, please press *9. I see Director Pagliari.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Romero, for your presentation and doing the work on this. It's very important. I have a question related to something like access to grocery stores. I think I brought up a question about a year ago around this topic, but I'm curious if you could maybe explain a little bit how access to like stores is, if this is involved in that calculation, and then if there's a possibility that the board in turn could consider modifying the language to only include grocery stores with like fresh fruits and vegetables, or if it's a federal standard. Because I think the last time we had a conversation about this, we're including like 7-Eleven and other unhealthier places, and I would prefer not to do that. Thank you.
Committee Chair, if I may.
Please.
Yeah, so key activity centers does calculate grocers, which include 7-Elevens and actual grocery stores such as King Soopers or Safeway. The reason why we include 7-Elevens is because they're part of our retail network access as well. So these are locations where customers can reload fare into their MyRide app or into other fares as well. That's the reason why we included it in our analysis, if that makes sense.
Okay, any more questions? Director Guzman.
Thank you,
Auditor Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. Hey, just real quick with some of the findings that you found with respect to the decreases. I'm not terribly concerned with what I see, but I just want to gauge with you response about what you said in terms of other services compensating for the decrease in specific routes. Particularly, I was looking at the T line being added in, which is new. We haven't seen that before with respect to the Downtown Rail Reconstruction Project. And I believe that necessitates a change because we'll lose access to the downtown loop on the L, the H, and the D, if I'm not mistaken. And that T line's filling in a gap to transfer people. So is it a combination of things where it's making an impact because we're losing that service to do a rail construction project, so it's minor, not major, in terms of talking about this?
Correct. Yeah. So it's both percentage wise, the difference is very minimal, so there's not much of a concern. I think what the question, and maybe if Jesse can chime in after. So for example, the L line that's being suspended, but the 43 is picking up most of the corridor, which will still provide access to that full corridor in terms of key activity centers or just getting to any location within a quarter mile of what we do in our analysis.
Okay.
I see Jesse came on, so maybe you could provide a little more detail in terms of how they schedule that.
Chair, if I may.
Please.
And thank you, Martin. Actually, just to go into a little bit further detail, and please forgive me for my voice or lack thereof. I've got a little pneumonia that never feels like a little pneumonia.
Oh.
At the same time, to go on what Martin was talking about in terms of the T, we're making efforts to actually mitigate the loss of the H with the T. So that's another thing that we're trying to do. And then more specifically on the Route 43, we're doubling the frequency during the peak periods, going to a 7.5-minute frequency to make up for the loss of the L line as well.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure I understood that that's what was going on.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks, everybody. Are there any no votes on this action? All right. With 7 aye votes and no votes and no abstentions, the motion passes. The third action is for the June 2026 service change. For the Board of Directors to approve the June 2026 service change as revised and summarized in Attachment A, and to authorize the General Manager and CEO or her designee to execute contract amendments as necessary for private operators impacted by the service changes. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
All right, here Vice Chair Chandler. Do I have a second?
Second, Bouquet.
All right, Director Bouquet, you're just all over the place tonight. Thank you. All right, I would now like to ask Patrick Preuser, Chief Operations Officer, and Jesse Carter, Senior Manager, Service Planning and Scheduling, to present this item.
Thank you, Chair Harwick. Again, Patrick Preuser, Chief Operations Officer. We're presenting the June 2026 service change for recommended action. The change represents a coordinated effort to strengthen reliability, restore key frequencies, and better align service with customer demand while remaining cost neutral. It supports a more resilient and understandable transit network, is consistent with the work shift selection process outlined in the collective bargaining agreement with ATU, and allows both operators and staff to optimize service delivery. The proposal reflects observed utilization trends, operational performance data, lessons learned during the downtown rail reconstruction, in alignment with the 2021-2026 strategic plan, the customer excellence priority in particular. For the rail network highlights, the focus is on service and resiliency. The C line will be reinstated between Littleton Mineral Station and Denver Union Station. Planning for the future of L line service continues, building on the success of the Special Light Rail Holiday service, with the intent that when service is reinstated, it will operate at least to I-25 Broadway and potentially beyond, as demand, funding, and operational considerations allow. B line is increasing to a 30-minute peak, and G line to a 15-minute peak headway. The R line frequency is improving to 15 minutes, and special service, or the T line, operating between I-25 Broadway and Lincoln. Again, just as a reminder, H line service is suspended during the downtown rail reconstruction, with mitigation through the increased R line frequency and the T line and some of the other enhancements that were just mentioned. For the bus network, we have changes designed to complement rail investments and prioritize high demand corridors. Frequency increases on routes such as the 0L midday service, just as we heard a few minutes earlier, 7.5-minute headway on the 43. We have the 37 and the 16th Street free ride, which is going from a 4.5-minute to a 3-minute headway. Expanded access to major employment centers and downtown destinations. Extension of Route 15 to the Amazon Fulfillment Center. Route 53 operating between US 36 Sheridan Station and the City and County of Broomfield Municipal Center, with hourly service from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. The LD3 to be increased to 30-minute frequency in the morning and afternoon peak periods, and reinstatement and enhancement of several routes pending final Clean Transit Enterprise funding. Targeted reductions and discontinuations on low utilization services to reinvest resources where they deliver the greatest benefit. And reductions include the Platte Valley Flex Ride, which is being discontinued due to low utilization. From a resource optimization and equity perspective, the overall proposal is designed to be cost neutral. Service levels are strategically aligned with demand to strengthen system-wide reliability. As we heard earlier, all changes were evaluated against RTD service standards, system integrity, and the availability of alternatives, and the Title VI requirements have been applied to ensure no disparate impacts to low-income or minority communities. We already heard from Mr. Romero and Christie about the public engagement that took place on February 23rd and 24th. That public input informed the final recommended action for board action. So in summary, the June 2026 service change strengthens reliability, restores service where it matters most, responsibly manages resources and positions RTD for continued recovery. Today's recommended actions advance to the full board on March 24th. And with that, open it up to any questions.
Vice Chair Chandler.
Thank you so much, Mr. Preußer. I'm excited about a lot of the service being restored. It's exciting, as well as some of the service, especially out to my neck of the woods of that Amazon facility. So I appreciate that. But I have a question, because I think in several board meetings ago, we voted to have additional service for large events. And of course, the service change has nothing to do necessarily with these large events, but where does that kind of fit into all of this, or does it?
Yeah, good question. So we did have the high volume events that were presented to the board. So as it stands right now, that information is being reviewed, and there are no high volume events as part of this package or funded by this particular package. So as that information gets reviewed and there's decisions about which high volume events the board wants to move forward with, then we can have additional discussions around funding and the timing associated with those.
Can I have one?
Sure.
Just a quick follow-up.
Yeah.
I know that we had talked about as a board that one of those special events was going to be in May at the Boulder, and along with additional events that were happening, Rockies start in May, etc. So I just thought I'd put that on the radar, because it just occurred to me, like, even though May seems far away, it's nonetheless right around the corner at the same time. So that was just my comment.
And also, Vice Chair Chandler, we just voted to learn more about the special events. We didn't vote on special events. So we haven't made that decision yet. That's actually going to come back to us. We're going to, this committee, lucky us, we're going to talk about that. And then we will provide a recommendation to the rest of the board. So so everybody over there is in the right now. This is on us, because also, like at the last board meeting, we didn't have consensus about where we wanted to go, and there's a lot of things in front of us, and there's a lot of options, and so that's going to be us to we get to carry that. We'll call it a torch, could be a burden, depending on which way you're looking. So, but yes, we're.
Just a note. I'm sorry, Chairman Harwick. It's not on the work plan, and I guess that's why I should have caught it last time when we had our meeting, that there's nothing on the work plan. So I don't know where it fits, but I just want to bring it to everyone's attention. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll get it on there, because we know it's important to a lot of board members, so we'll get it in there. Okay. Secretary Nicholson, I see your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Preußer, I really appreciate the incredible amount of work that you and the team have done on these service changes. As we expressed last month, this is a really fantastic improvement. And I think, for downtown specifically, there's a lot to be really excited about. I noticed you talked about the extension of the L line once the construction is done, and bringing back something, from 30th and Downing to potentially I-25 and Broadway. Assuming we're bringing back the H as well to its normal service, I'm assuming that would also imply that we would be keeping the C line up at Union Station. Is that essentially the correct inference from that statement?
So thank you very much for the question. If I may, what I would like to do is just address the previous comment. I wasn't quick enough with my hand there, and then I'll answer that question, Director Nicholson. Just wanted to point out that the work plan that was approved does include high volume events and the to be scheduled pending items. So I just wanted to point that out, that it is in the work plan, although it needs to be scheduled. And then to answer your question, Director Nicholson, the answer is yes.
Great, thank you. I would just add that, I really, I appreciate this is the comments being in the packet is a wonderful thing. And we did get, I noticed more comments on the sea line than I think any other change that we have. And, I think it speaks to the value of that connection that we will be bringing back. And obviously the benefit of having that service back to the downtown loop to give people quick connections is going to be really important. And so I think, getting that message out there to people that no, we're not getting rid of, the frequency into the downtown loop once we're done doing the construction is going to be really important. Do you plan over the next year to put up, as a result of what you just said, to transition the signage at the stations and things from saying D line to C line in those cases and things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and all of the maps and related materials will be updated accordingly.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Chair Guzman.
Thank you, Chair. I just need help understanding a couple of things. I'm really grateful for all of the hard work here, and the rails and the reconstruction project runs the length and width of my district, so I'm particularly keen on this, but I'm really going to look at rubber tire fleet information right now. The Route 19 with Pecos, this might be more of a comment, but something for everybody to consider in service planning, seems to have a connection issue for the Pecos Junction train stop, where passengers who are alighting from the train are not able to get up the stairs or the elevator across the bridge and to the bus stop before the buses depart later in the evening. Something to consider. And there have been ongoing issues, and I'm not really sure why, but buses have not been pulling in to the stop. They're bypassing it and going north on Pecos and continuing and not stopping there. It's happened a few times where buses have gone past. I witnessed it with a friend the other night, so I bring that to your attention just for future reference. The other part, and this is a finesse question, thank you for the work on the reductions, but I have a particular question about Route 7. It serves a highly Spanish-speaking population running through Globeville, Elyria, and Swansea, and I'm wondering if there was any particular math that was used to reach the recommendation for the reduction in service later in the evening, when I know folks are returning from shopping or from their retail jobs to that area of Denver and getting out up north. And then the second part of that question would be, was there any outreach specifically in Spanish with the Spanish-speaking communities who rely heavily on that route in the Globeville, Elyria, Swansea area? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Director Guzman. First, appreciate the comment on the Route 19. So we will look into that further to better understand. We do actively monitor the system as a whole to ensure that we can make connections. So this information will be helpful for that team as they continue to do that work. And we'll follow up with you accordingly on that. I am going to ask our Director of Service Planning and Scheduling, Jesse Carter, to talk a little bit about how the service standards were applied for the span of service and the frequency on that line. And then I would ask Mr. Christie if he could opine on the latter part of that question. So, Jesse?
Okay, Chair, if I may.
Please.
Okay, so in looking at the ridership, and Director Guzman, thank you for the question. We are very careful in considering the Route 7 and its customers being a part of the BIPOC community, and also English as a second language being something of a challenge with that route. But at the same time, we're looking at the late night trips, and they are performing at a very low level. What I'd like to do is provide you with more direct information about the actual trips and their actual number of persons on board that are related to this service change. And so if I can, I'll send that to you no later than midday tomorrow.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Secretary Nicholson.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry,
thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Yeah,
pardon me,
there was another part of that question that
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Christie was going to answer, just about the outreach and also what languages that outreach was done.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, thank you, Chair Hardwick. I'd actually like to call up Mr. Martin Romero to speak to that in detail. Martin.
Yeah, so in terms of outreach in the Elyria-Sonce area, it is my understanding that RTD didn't do in-person outreach, but our contractors, I believe, attended one event out there. I can't recall the name of the event that our contractor attended, but I can pull that information and send it over to you once I find it. I believe it was one in-person event. Other than that, it was the same outreach we did for everything else, which is in-service assets. So the flyers that go on the bus, and then decals as well that are on the rubber tire service fleet.
May I?
Please go for it.
I'm so sorry. I just want to make sure that I understand what you just said. I know what you're talking about in terms of the posters and the stickers that are put up on the buses. It's just difficult because I don't know which bus was used and if those stickers were bilingual or if they had a Spanish translation on them. I'm disappointed to hear that more wasn't done there, only because this is a group that's highly affected by this route. The 7 and the 8 are their lifelines to the rest of the city. And so when we're looking at engaging with the community that's highly Spanish speaking, if we're not doing what we need to engage with them, then we're not being effective communicators. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or engage in any negativity. I know that we have a lot of work to do all over the system, and so I do appreciate that work that's done. I'm just thinking this through because I get the call and I get to answer later if I vote to approve this. So if you don't mind sharing the information you do have, I'd appreciate it. I'll say one last thing and then I'll shut up. Sorry. The March powwow is coming, and the N line being able to function better serves us at the National Western Center. And so just thank you for all of the hard work that y'all are doing. Thanks.
Okay, Secretary Nicholson, this time you have the floor.
Thank you. I appreciate it. COO Preuser, I got concerns by email just in the last day or so from some of my some of my constituents in Cherry Creek over the 24 not being expanded in service and just over based on conversations that they've had with RTD over a number of months and years. And I was hoping you could maybe speak to what are the challenges that are coming from expanding that, not being able to expand that service. And I guess I was having a hard time, just looking at the route, given that it's a sort of a straight shot on University and all the different hotspots that it serves. What are maybe the challenges to getting people to ride that line? So I was hoping you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for sharing the feedback. If I could ask if there is a point of contact that you could share with us, we'd love to follow up with them and just learn a bit more specifics and details about any concerns that they're having, so we can try to address those. What I will ask is Director of Service Planning and Scheduling, Jesse Carter, if he can share any high-level kind of generic challenges that he may be aware of in the absence of the details.
Thank you, Chair, if I may.
Please.
Okay. In looking at the Route 24, which is our University Crosstown, if you look at the relative affluence of the neighborhood as part of a key demographic that may have an impact on the attractiveness of any given transit service, and car ownership being another one, you would notice that the route serves a good portion of an area that is not transit dependent, nor do they tend to use transit as much as other areas. If you were to compare that to routes that run in areas that are a little little more dissimilar in demographics, but look like the route in alignment, like the Route 40, you would see a higher ridership route in kind. So while the Cherry Creek Mall area remains a major regional draw, it by itself isn't enough to pull in its either clientele or riders who are workers there, because they typically, the workers don't necessarily come from that immediate area, and their customers largely are not on our transit services. So that's from a very high level, very subjective point of view, but I think we could certainly provide information to back that up with both information that comes from Transportation Solutions along with RTD.
May I, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Yeah, I deeply appreciate that. Yeah, and if there's information you can send me on like boarding data on the 24, just to understand like where people are taking it, where are they getting on, where are they getting off. It just, yeah, looking at it, especially the northern portion, strikes me as, wow, people should, in a just world, people should want to be using this to get from all those rail stations to all of those other hotspots. So.
Yes, but I would agree that right around 2005, we did see an uptick of ridership due to the implementation of Southeast Corridor, but at the same time, we saw some things also fall away in terms of tripper services serving one of the major private high schools that were along the route. So there's a lot that's going on with the 24, but it's been in, I hate to use the term decline, but it has been in decline in terms of ridership over the years.
No, awesome. Well, I appreciate it, and yeah, let's engage. And I'd love to learn more, so I can.
We'll send you information. Yeah,
thank you so much.
Information already.
Any more questions? I'm just gonna take a second and just say thank you, everybody, for all the really hard work you did on this. It's just really, it's great to see it. These are really welcome changes, and obviously, you know, I'm over the moon about G-Line, but just everything is really great, and everybody's staff is just really kicking butt and taking names. So, so again, thank you. Do I have any no votes on this action? All right, I've got 7 yeses, no nos, and no abstentions. And the fourth and final action is the technology integration and innovation resolution for the board to adopt the resolution series of 2026, which commits the board and staff to assessing ways to strategically expand technology integration in service delivery and to pursuing demonstrations of innovative mobility technologies. Do we have a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Director Bouquet. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. And Secretary Nicholson, thank you. All right. So as you all know, this is my baby. So I'm just going to give a quick recap on it. Been working on this for about 9 months now, and this has been just a great partnership between staff and myself and other board members, and just really excited about bringing technology sort of, you know, up a level in the organization. And I think it's really going to lead to RTD taking the lead in transit technology. So just as a reminder, we are looking at new tools that can solve longstanding problems like traffic congestion, first last mile, and real-time information at less frequent bus stops around the region. Specifically, we will be looking into autonomous shuttles that are self-driving, fully accessible solutions that ensure no one is left behind as technology evolves. Alternative grade systems that would provide elevated autonomous pods that provide high frequency travel above street level traffic, and smart transit infrastructure that would enhance bus stops, giving our riders accurate real-time information. This resolution is a commitment to research and planning, not to spending. First, there is no immediate financial commitment. This is about doing our homework and conducting market research. It does not authorize the use of taxpayer funds or external monies at this stage. Second, we will be establishing a technology and innovation work group. This group will meet quarterly and bring together the OSS chair and another board member to meet with the GM CEO, the CTIO, and the COO or their designees. The working group will discuss all types of technology, whether it is technology upgrades to systems that we already have, technology that's coming online in real time, or these potential demonstration projects, or technology that we haven't discussed that might just be coming along for whatever the case is. Finally, we will have a clear timeline, and the team will provide a formal recommendation within 12 months. This will give us time, enough time to be thorough while keeping the momentum we have built. And additionally, I hope that over the course of the next 12 months, other transit agencies, universities, private industry, and nonprofits will reach out to us to look at partnerships around these and other technologies. And in the end, our goal is simple. It's to make transit more reliable, accessible, and in my mind, to make it more fun. So I hope that I'll have your support on this, and I will take any questions. Director Pagliari.
Not a question, but a comment. Thank you. And I really appreciate you doing this and look forward to supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Secretary Nicholson.
I don't know why we're spending so much time talking about technology in this environment. No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be. This is phenomenal work. You've been doing this for ages, and really, I think this sets us up for the future and really starts to answer the question of, what types of services we need to be running in 2028, 2030, 2032, if we're going to justify our existence in the long term to the broad public. So I really appreciate the amount of time you've put into this. I think what we need to make sure we do on OSS and as a board as a whole is look back at this every 6 months and say, what are we actually doing that's on this list? How are we turning this from planning into practice? And so I appreciate you giving us that roadmap. So thank you.
Excited about it. Do I have any more questions? All right. So are there any no votes? All right. With 7 yes votes, no votes, and no abstentions, this motion passes. All right. Now we are moving on to discussion items, and we have no discussion items tonight. Are there any other matters to discuss?
Nope.
Dude, this is like a record. As a reminder, okay, all right, then there are no other matters. As a reminder, the next Operations Safety and Security Committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, April 8th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. At that meeting, we are scheduled to take action on new contracts for access on demand, as well as our drug and alcohol policy. We are also set to get an RTD Transit Police update, discuss a paratransit eligibility, certifications, and travel training contract, and review the 2025 Safety Performance Report. I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 6:33 p.m. As there was no more discussion. Thanks, everybody.